Hi everyone, Miss Liz Y here. Thank you so much for joining me today for Mini Mad Science Lab. Today we're going to be experimenting with surface tension, which I will explain what that is in just a moment. But as a reminder, if you registered for this program, you should have received a science kit which contains everything you will need for today's project. If you did not register for today's program, that is more than okay. You can of course still participate by using any materials that you may have at home. So to get started, let's go over what we will need today. In your science kit, you should have received a supply list, which lists everything you'll need for today's project, as well as some items you'll be needing from home. In your kit, you also will see that you have a pipette. You will have a condiment cup filled with cinnamon, a condiment cup filled with dish soap, and you will also have some pepper. I have a condiment cup filled with pepper, but you will be receiving pepper packets. You also will have a surface tension record sheet, which we're going to use to compare and contrast our results with. And then from home, you will be needing a bowl. Just a small cereal bowl will work just fine. Some water, and some optional things you can use for this experiment include different types of spices or things you could sprinkle in water, so things like baking soda or flour or coffee grounds. But we'll go over more of that in just a moment. So, you might be wondering what surface tension is. Well, to answer that question, surface tension is a force which causes a layer of liquid, so like water, to behave like an elastic sheet. So we're going to be experimenting with that, and I'll explain a little bit more as we go along. So I'm going to point my camera down here so you can see what I'm doing. So the first thing you're going to want to do is fill your cereal bowl with water. Just fill it up pretty much to the top. You don't have to measure out a specific amount. Just make sure that your cereal bowl or something similar in size to a cereal bowl is filled with water. So I have my bowl here ready to go, and we're first going to experiment with our cinnamon. So take your cup filled with cinnamon and you're just going to sprinkle it over the water. And we want to cover the top layer here with cinnamon. We don't want too much cinnamon, so you might have a little bit left over, which is fine. We just want enough to create a thin layer that covers the water. So now we're going to take our dish soap here, and we're just going to drop a little bit of this dish soap over the cinnamon, and we're going to see what happens. So like I said earlier, surface tension is a force that causes a layer of liquid, so in this experiment it would be water, to behave like a sheet. So let's see what happens when we use dish soap to basically break that force. So let's take a little bit of dish soap here, drop it inside, and see what happens. Do you think that the dish soap will cause the cinnamon to scatter? Do you think it will cause it to clump? Let's take a look and see what happens. So let's just drop some dish soap in. As you can see here, it is scattering. It's not scattering quickly, but the cinnamon is scattering a little bit. So, like I said, even though we do have a force created by the water and the cinnamon sprinkled on top, it looks like the dish soap is acting as a force that breaks apart that elasticity. So if you wanted to take some notes on your record sheet, you can, just so you kind of can keep track of the different types of ingredients we will be using. So now that we know what happens when dish soap is combined with cinnamon, let's take a look and see what will happen when we combine dish soap with pepper. So I'm going to set this aside. I actually have a second bowl already filled with water. You don't have to have two different bowls filled with water. You can easily just dump out your cinnamon water, rinse out the bowl, and use the same bowl. Or you can have two different bowls, whatever works easiest for you. So now that I have this second bowl filled with water, I'm going to go ahead, take my pepper, and just sprinkle it over the top of the water, just like we did with the cinnamon. If you don't use all of it, that's okay. We just want to create a thin layer with the pepper. So now we can think a little bit about what will happen when we combine the dish soap and the pepper. Will it clump? Will it scatter like the cinnamon did? Will it scatter more quickly? Let's see what happens. So let's take a few more drops of dish soap and see what happens. So this definitely just spread apart almost completely. As you can see, I just put one drop in the middle here and all of the pepper went almost entirely to the sides. So let's try that one more time and see if it will go even further. Yep, it looks like it's spreading even more. So it looks like both the pepper and the cinnamon had very similar effects when combined with our dish soap. However, the pepper did spread more quickly, which I personally find interesting because it seemed as if the cinnamon was lighter, so I thought maybe the cinnamon would spread more quickly than pepper. But that's what science is all about, is experimenting with different variables and seeing what kind of results you can achieve. So on your record sheet, you will see that there are 2 blank spaces here. So make sure you record your notes or record your observations after you combine your dish soap with your cinnamon and your pepper. That way you can compare and contrast with other ingredients you might be using. So if you'd like to test out this experiment with other ingredients at home, feel free. Some things I was thinking of that you could possibly use to test would be things like flour, baking soda, coffee grounds, other spices like oregano or parsley or chili powder. I tested this experiment before this video using salt and sugar, and neither of those really worked. Both of them were a little heavier, so they just sunk to the bottom of the bowl, but maybe you'll have different results if you try that at home. So feel free to leave some comments in our Facebook post letting me know what ingredients you decided to experiment with. I hope you had fun today. I hope you learned something new. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon. Bye-bye.